Hi, I'm Cassandra, and you're watching Luminous Star Hub, where we take a deeper dive into the story behind human navigation. Today, we're looking beneath the surface to explore the psychological toll of the infinite stream. A digital world where high-stakes IRL, or what's known as in real-life streaming content creation, has become an occupational risk. IRL streaming has evolved into a radical ethnographic disruption of traditional media, replacing sanitized travel narratives with something far more raw, emotional, and painfully honest. This shift is why millions, over 171 million subscribers across social media platforms, all gravitate toward creators like IShowSpeed. IShowSpeed global tours have transformed him from a gamer into a conduit for mediated authenticity. His Speed Does Africa mission became a cultural case study, challenging Western algorithmic prejudices and dismantling outdated stereotypes about the global South. In this unfiltered format, cities like Luanda and Johannesburg stop being backdrops and instead become living participants, demanding that viewers confront their own assumptions and develop a deeper literacy of global structures. But the absence of a safety edit means IRL streaming often collides with the friction of real-world systems. Moments like the Botswana diamond trade encounter expose the lingering shadows of colonial economics, revealing how resource wealth is diverted through long-standing Western agreements. The Algeria Stadium incident, where hostility erupted over perceived disrespect, exposed geopolitical tensions between sub-Saharan and North African communities and highlighted the ethical dilemma of global broadcasting in local spaces. These flashpoints reveal a truth traditional media avoids. Cultural exchange is messy, volatile, and emotionally charged. IRL streaming becomes an accidental global classroom, forcing millions to witness the complexity of real places in real time. Yet beneath the cultural commentary lies the immense psychological burden of living inside a digital panopticon. The creator becomes both narrator and subject, navigating chaotic environments while millions scrutinize every micro-expression. The human cost becomes visible through signs of overstimulation, hypervigilant scanning, laryngeal tension, shallow breathing, and the masking behaviors that emerge when someone is trying to keep the peace under threat. In the Dominican Republic, these reactions intensified. Sudden crowd surges triggered emotional flooding, fireworks provoked exaggerated, startled responses, and an unwanted kiss produced a visible freeze reaction. These are not dramatic moments, they are biological survival responses. When environmental demands exceed the nervous system's capacity, the body shifts from social engagement into primitive defense circuits. The psychological strain deepens when moral injury enters the equation. The view-botting controversy forced Speed to defend his integrity under public accusation, adding a secondary layer of nervous system fatigue. His quiet rooftop admission, "I'm learning who I am when nobody's telling me what to do," became a rare moment of unmasked vulnerability, revealing the internal battle between external performance and internal identity. This is the point where the mask cracks, where the facade of limitless energy gives way to the truth of human endurance. The creator's emotional labor becomes visible, and the audience is invited to reflect on the cost of their own consumption habits. To recover from this taxed state, the nervous system requires release valves, moments that shift the body from sympathetic activation back into parasympathetic regulation. Speed instinctively sought these grounding strategies. The rooster chase, which acted as a spontaneous somatic discharge through laughter and movement. The beach, which helped reset circadian rhythms. And the quiet family dinner, which offered slow, regulated social engagement. These moments weren't just wholesome, they were physiological lifelines. They allowed the nervous system to soften after prolonged overstimulation. Understanding these reactions requires a trauma-informed lens. Laryngeal tension, masking, exaggerated startle responses, ocular hypervigilance. and defensive irritability are not personality quirks. They are indicators of nervous system overload. They reveal how chronic hypervisibility erodes a creator's sense of agency, especially when strangers film without consent. Unauthorized documentation triggers immediate powerlessness, collapsing personal boundaries, and accelerating burnout. The creator becomes trapped between audience expectations and physical reality, forced to maintain performance metrics while navigating unpredictable environments. This is why high-stakes IRL streaming must be understood as a high-risk profession. Multi-week, transcontinental broadcasts introduce occupational hazards that exceed traditional media safety protocols. The infrastructure of persistent visibility imposes a massive allostatic load, pushing the creator into chronic hyperarousal. Parasocial boundary dissolution, sensory bombardment, and the pressure to maintain record-breaking engagement metrics create a physiological tax that cannot be ignored. The Africa Tour and the Dominican Republic Odyssey illustrate two sides of the same coin. One outward, dismantling global misconceptions. The other inward, exposing the psychological cost of living in real time. The Africa Tour was a mission of cultural recalibration, challenging the mud hut trope and showcasing the continent's vibrancy, modernity, and overwhelming hospitality. It was a journey of external discovery, where speed became a mirror reflecting the real Africa back to the world. The Dominican Republic tour, however, became a mirror reflecting the creator back to himself. It revealed the fragility of the human nervous system under chronic stress, the emotional flooding triggered by crowd surges, and the survival-based masking required to maintain continuity. The evolution from racing cheetahs to whispering, "I'm just one person," marks the shift from spectacle to self-confrontation. Ultimately, these tours demonstrate both the power and the price of radical transparency. IRL streaming can bridge cultural divides, dismantle stereotypes, and transform casual viewers into conscious global citizens. But it also exposes the creator to profound psychological and physiological strain. To sustain a career in this volatile medium, creators must cultivate grounding practices, internal regulation, and self-awareness. The Unfiltered journey reveals that while the world can change a creator, the creator must also learn how to reclaim agency within the chaos. As Speed prepares for future global tours like the International Federation of Association Football World Cup circuit, a return to India, and a potential Russia expedition, the lessons of Africa and the Dominican Republic remain essential. IRL streaming is not just entertainment, it is a case study in human resilience regardless of the constant demands of visibility. These incredible IRL tours stand as a testament showing us that the real story is not only the spectacle, it's the nervous system navigating the powerful and demanding world of digital media. IShowSpeed IRL streaming global tours often bridges cultural divides, while simultaneously warning of the profound physiological toll such transparency exacts on the individual at the center of the lens.
From the wilds of Africa to the shores of the Dominican Republic, a journey through history, culture, and breathtaking landscapes. Discover the world with Global Explorer.
Imagine, like, you're running at a full sprint against a cheetah in South Africa, and the cheetah has literally just scratched your leg. Your heart is pounding out of your chest, your adrenaline is spiking.
A total nightmare scenario for most people.
Totally. But instead of, stopping the race or calling for a medic, your first instinct is to check a camera lens.
Yeah.
You check it to see if millions of people are watching your reaction.
Which is wild.
It is wild. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking at the explosive, completely unfiltered world of IRL in real-life streaming. And we know you're curious. You want to understand these massive digital forces shaping global culture right now, and you want to get past those, surface-level viral clips.
Without having to drown in a million different academic think pieces, right?
Exactly. We've got you covered.
And the stack of sources we are looking at today is truly fascinating. We are pulling from recent cultural anthropology reports, some really deep behavioral psychology analyses, and these highly detailed digital media ethnographies.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, very. And they are all zeroing in on one massive phenomenon, the global IRL streaming tours of digital creator IShowSpeed.
Right.
Specifically, we're focusing on his month-long trek across Africa and his really intense, highly scrutinized tour of the Dominican Republic.
So our mission for this deep dive is to basically explore this explosive collision. On one side, we have this beautiful, unscripted, global cultural discovery.
Yeah.
But on the other side, we are looking at the severe physiological and psychological cost of living and performing under like constant, unrelenting surveillance.
Because it really is a profound ethnographic disruption.
Yeah.
I mean, for decades, when audiences consumed travel content, it was through the lens of a highly curated documentary.
Like the glossy travel brochures.
Right, exactly. It was sanitized, it was brand safe, and edited to ensure the viewer never really felt uncomfortable.
Always a happy ending.
Always. But when a creator steps out of a controlled gaming room and broadcasts raw, unedited reality across 20 countries, well, that protective glass shatters. This format forces millions of viewers to confront their own biases in real time.
Which is huge. Though I'll be honest, when I first watched clips of like a teenager running around barking at dogs on a live stream, ethnography was not the first word that came to mind.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't.
Right. So convince me this isn't just, chaotic internet bait designed to game an algorithm.
Well, it absolutely operates on chaos, let's be real. But the disruption happens in how that chaos interacts with the real world. Let's look at the outward impact of dismantling global stereotypes.
Okay, I'm listening.
The sources highlight how Western media algorithms have historically flattened the representation of the global South. For years, if you search for content about Africa, the algorithm heavily favored poverty tourism.
Or wildlife documentaries.
Exactly, wildlife documentaries, or what the creator himself referred to as baboon and mud hut stereotypes. The algorithms are literally built to feed viewers what they already expect to see.
So by showing up live and unscripted, you just completely bypass the algorithm's preconceived notions?
Precisely. The environment stops being a passive backdrop.
It becomes a character.
Yes. The sheer scale of the Speed Does Africa tour forced a totally different narrative. The creator actively engaged with the landscape in a way that made the continent a main character in the broadcast. And what's fascinating here is the teleological endpoint of this entire tour was framed around a promised DNA reveal.
Hold on, teleological endpoint is a bit heavy for a Tuesday morning.
Oh, fair.
You just mean like the ultimate goal or the driving purpose of the trip?
Fair enough, yes, the driving purpose. So the DNA reveal, an active search for ancestral heritage, gave the chaotic spectacle a narrative spine.
Right, something to build toward.
Exactly. Millions of young viewers were tuning in for the wild stunts, but they actually ended up on a journey of identity and cultural deconstruction.
And the stunts were genuinely wild. I mean, we aren't talking about a tourist casually walking around with a selfie stick here.
No, not at all.
It was high-octane spectacle. Aside from the cheetah race, he actually raced an Olympic champion, Latil Tebogo, in Botswana.
Yeah, that was
He
incredible.
literally strapped a car around his waist and tried to physically pull it in a tug-of-war against Zimbabwe's strongest woman.
Just unbelievable physical feats.
Right. And he was eating fried worms, sampling cow testicles, wandering through these bustling Exosa neighborhoods, and claiming the historic title of doing the first ever live stream directly from the pyramids of Giza in Egypt.
And what makes this so compelling to anthropologists is that you capture things no television producer would ever script.
Because you literally can't.
Right. Because there is no production safety net, the unscripted format accidentally exposes massive global reality.
Oh, the moment in Botswana is the perfect example of this. Reading through the sources, this was easily my favorite part of the tour.
It's a great moment.
He spontaneously decides, on a whim, that he wants to buy a diamond.
A completely normal consumer impulse, especially for a, wealthy young creator.
Totally. But it turns into a total masterclass in global economics. Because for those who might not know the history, Botswana is one of the world's top diamond producers. But when he tries to just walk in and buy a raw local stone on camera, he hits a wall. Millions of young viewers watch him learn in real time how the supply chain actually works.
Which is incredibly complex.
It is. He discovers that local resources are tied up in these massive, long-standing colonial-era agreements with Western buyers. The high-value stones are exported to places like Antwerp or London before they ever hit a consumer market.
So you have this massive audience of young people who literally logged on to watch a creator do backflips, suddenly getting a real-time lesson in post-colonial resource extraction.
It's wild. It bridges the gap between pop culture and macroeconomics perfectly.
It really does. The streamer acts as a conduit, and the ethnographic sources actually refer to this dynamic as the mirror effect.
So how does that mirror effect work in practice?
It functions as a mechanism for mutual recognition. Look at the moment he landed in Angola. He stepped out into the urban vitality of Luanda, saw the towering skyscrapers and modern infrastructure, and his immediate reaction was wide-eyed shock. He said on stream, "Africa is not what people think. This is crazy, bro."
Right.
In that moment of genuine surprise, he became a mirror. He wasn't just showing modern Africa to his audience. He was showing the global audience's misconceptions back to itself.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, if a viewer felt surprised by the overwhelming hospitality in Johannesburg or the architecture in Angola, they were actually auditing their own internalized biases.
He kept repeating that in other parts of the world he experiences racism, but throughout the Africa tour it was, quote, nothing but love.
Yes, that was a recurring theme.
But, that total lack of a filter is a double-edged sword. When you strip away the safety edit, you don't just capture beautiful moments of connection, you inevitably broadcast systemic cultural friction live to millions of people.
You do.
And that's exactly what blew up in Algeria.
The friction of the real world is unavoidable. The moment you force a camera into a space that does not explicitly consent to being a global stage, you are no longer just observing the culture.
You're disrupting it.
You are disrupting it. And the Algeria flashpoint was really the breaking point of the entire Africa tour.
The scene at the Nelson Mandela Stadium in Algeria is chaotic just to read about. He goes in expecting another joyful, energetic football experience.
Like he had in other countries.
Right. But the crowd turns almost immediately. It devolves into intense hostility. Water bottles and various objects are being hurled at him from the stands.
Yeah.
The entire nothing but love narrative just shatters live on camera with absolutely no way to cut to commercial.
And the reports in our stack unpack this incident impartially, which is important. They point out that it wasn't caused by a single misstep. It was a complex, overlapping collision of cultural and systemic tensions.
Okay, break that down for us.
First, there was a direct clash over surveillance. Stadium staff had actually warned the streaming team beforehand that the local fans fundamentally disliked being filmed.
Which is a complete collision of values right there. You have a creator whose entire ethos is total, constant transparency, walking into a community that heavily prioritizes privacy.
Precisely. Then there were symbolic missteps that inflamed the crowd. For example, the creator wore the Algerian national team jersey to the stadium.
Which seems like a nice gesture, right?
To an outsider, yes. But in the highly charged, fiercely loyal world of local football ultras, wearing a national team shirt instead of the local club's colors can actually be perceived as an affront.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's seen as a sign of disrespect to the local loyalties. And beneath those immediate triggers, the incident sparked a massive global discourse. Many commentators and reports attributed the underlying hostility to deeper, long-standing racial and regional tensions between the sub-Saharan and North African communities.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this is the central paradox of IRL streaming. If your entire brand is built on breaking down barriers by being entirely unfiltered, at what point does being unfiltered cross the line?
That's the big question.
Like, when does a raw cultural exploration tip over into actually violating a local community's cultural sovereignty and their fundamental right to privacy?
That is the ultimate ethical dilemma of the global broadcast. I mean, traditional media completely avoids this problem by scouting locations weeks in advance.
Right, securing signed release forms from everyone in the background.
Exactly, and highly curating the crowd. IRL streaming strips all of that infrastructure away. It proves the truth that traditional media tries desperately to hide, which is that genuine cultural exchange is messy, emotionally charged, and highly volatile.
And when you disrupt a culture, that culture pushes back. But the pushback isn't just external. The outward disruption eventually causes a profound internal disruption. If the Africa tour was an outward exploration of identity and algorithms, the sources suggest that his 2026 Dominican Republic tour was entirely an inward exploration.
Yes.
It was a terrifying case study in the sheer biological fragility of the human nervous system.
We are shifting the lens from geopolitical friction to biological survival here. The anthropological sources refer to this experience as living inside a biological panopticon.
Panopticon, like the prison concept where you were constantly being watched.
Exactly like that. The panopticon was a theoretical prison design where inmates never knew exactly when they were being watched.
They just act like they're always being watched.
Right, they had to assume they were being monitored at all times, leading to intense psychological pressure. In IRL streaming, the creator is actively holding the surveillance device. The audience isn't just watching, they are judging, clipping, and analyzing every micro-expression.
Reading through the trauma-informed breakdown of the DR tour, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The reports refer to this as the burden of the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't just talking about a creator feeling a little stressed out by crowds. We're talking about severe documented physical tolls. Trauma specialists analyzing the footage noted specific biological responses.
Very specific.
Yeah, they pointed out ocular scanning. His eyes were rapidly, constantly darting around looking for physical threats in the crowd. They documented tachypnea.
And for you listening, tachypnea is the medical term for abnormally shallow, rapid breathing.
Right.
It happens when the body is desperately trying to oxygenate muscles to prepare for a fight-or-flight response.
And they also noted laryngeal tension, where the vocal cords physically tighten up as the body unconsciously prepares to shout or protect the airway. It's like,
Yeah.
imagine living inside an MRI machine where every single heartbeat and tiny movement is being scanned and analyzed by millions of people. And simultaneously, you are trying to host a stand-up comedy show in the middle of a stampede.
That analogy perfectly captures the sensory bombardment. The environmental demands of the DR tour were completely exceeding his nervous system's capacity to cope.
Yeah.
If we look at this through a trauma-informed lens, we see clear biological survival responses caught on live camera. The most prominent example was the unwanted kiss incident.
Oh, walk us through what happened there.
The creator was on a crowded public bus in the Dominican Republic. He was physically trapped by the crowd with literally no clear exit strategy.
Claustrophobic.
Extremely.
Oh!
A fan suddenly reached out, grabbed his face, and kissed him without consent. It was a total physical boundary violation. And what trauma practitioners observed in his immediate reaction wasn't just annoyance, it was a textbook freeze response.
Like a deer in headlights.
Exactly. There was a momentary visible physical paralysis, his body completely locked up. And this was followed immediately by a psychological defense mechanism called social masking or fawning.
Let me push back on that for a second. I thought the standard survival responses were just fight, flight, or freeze. What is fawning?
Fawning is a highly specific trauma response, where a person uses appeasement to avoid conflict and survive a threat.
Okay.
When your agency is taken away and you cannot fight or flee, the nervous system forces you to mask your true feelings. Instead of getting angry, the creator let out a forced laugh and desperately tried to joke the situation away.
Wow. Just to keep things calm.
Exactly. He suppressed his genuine distress to keep the peace and prevent the situation in that confined space from escalating. He had to appease the crowd just to survive the moment.
It is genuinely heartbreaking when you realize the biological cost of what the internet just calls content.
It really is.
And it wasn't only physical touch that was setting off these alarms. The environment itself became a trigger.
Yes.
There was another incident in the DR with unexpected fireworks going off near him. Instead of a normal jump or flinch, his body went into a massive, exaggerated physical startle response. His muscles contracted deeply, and his breathing spiked uncontrollably.
The sources refer to this as being stuck in a chronic state of proprioceptive alarm.
Proprioceptive alarm.
Yeah. Proprioception is your body's ability to sense its location, movements, and actions. When you are in a state of proprioceptive alarm, your nervous system is essentially misfiring. It's treating every loud noise or sudden movement as a mortal threat.
And that physical alarm is compounded by the fact that it isn't just physical boundaries being violated. The digital and moral boundaries are being breached too, which brings an entirely different type of exhaustion.
Yeah, mental exhaustion.
Right. During the DR tour, there was a massive controversy regarding view-botting.
Which is a deeply stigmatized issue in the streaming community.
Right. For anyone who might not know, view-botting is when malicious software is used to create thousands of fake viewers to artificially inflate a stream's popularity.
It's cheating, essentially.
Exactly. It violates platform terms of service and destroys a creator's credibility. During the DR tour, the streamer was accused of artificially inflating his record-breaking live viewer numbers. Yeah, now, he addressed it on stream, explaining that the view-botting was happening, but he absolutely didn't orchestrate it. Someone else was attacking the stream. But the psychological weight of having to deal with that accusation live is massive.
Oh, this is a prime example of what psychologists call moral injury.
Moral injury.
Yeah, moral injury is a secondary psychological trauma.
Yeah.
It occurs when you are blamed for systemic issues or circumstances that are largely outside of your control, and you are forced to publicly defend your core integrity and character.
So you have a creator whose nervous system is already severely fatigued from crowd surges, tachypnea, and physical boundary violations. And on top of that, he has to expend massive amounts of cognitive energy defending his moral character to millions of skeptical people in real time.
This leads to a dangerous accumulation of allostatic load.
Which is what?
Allostatic load is the biological wear and tear on the body that accumulates when an individual is exposed to repeated or chronic stress.
Which makes me wonder, and I'm sure you listening at home are wondering the exact same thing. How does anyone survive this level of biological wear and tear? How do you carry the burden of the broadcast without completely breaking down?
Well, physiologically, the human body simply cannot sustain sympathetic activation, that intense fight or flight state, indefinitely.
It's impossible.
Right. If the body doesn't find a way to shift back into parasympathetic regulation, the rest and digest state, the systems will fail. The nervous system requires release valves.
Okay.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the ethnographers point to very specific, fascinating moments where the creator instinctively sought out these biological lifelines to save himself.
Oh, the rooster chase.
Yes, the rooster chase is a brilliant example.
Okay, on stream, it just looked like a hilarious viral moment of a guy chasing a bird around.
But biologically, the act of sprinting after that rooster provided a spontaneous somatic discharge.
A way to burn off the energy.
Exactly. The physical exertion of running, combined with genuine, unforced laughter, allowed his body to physically burn off and release the massive amounts of cortisol and physical tension that had been building up from the crowds.
That's wild. And there were much quieter moments of regulation, too. There was a segment where he joined a local Dominican family for a quiet sit-down dinner. And another moment where he completely retreated from the crowds to sit on the beach at sunset, just trying to let his circadian rhythms reset. It's almost as if you could visually see his nervous system softening on camera.
Because in those quiet moments, the parasocial boundary dissolved back into normal, grounded human connection. He was in a global spectacle performing for millions. He was just a person eating dinner.
But the mask did crack. Despite the release valves, the exhaustion was incredibly evident. There's an incredibly poignant quote from a quiet rooftop stream in the DR.
Yeah, I remember this one.
The bravado completely dropped and he just looked into the lens and admitted, I'm learning who I am when nobody's telling me what to do.
The sources identify this as a moment of liminal vulnerability, being caught in a transitional space between the performer, the audience demands, and the actual human underneath.
I want to compare that DR rooftop quote to something he said earlier back during the Africa tour in Ethiopia.
Right.
When the burnout first started showing, he admitted to the camera, I'm pushing myself so hard out here, I'm just one person.
Wow.
Right. The contrast between those two statements is staggering. In Ethiopia, we see the sheer exhaustion of performing for the entire world. But by the time he reaches the Dominican Republic, it evolves into this quiet, desperate realization that he is trying to find his own internal identity underneath the crushing demands of his viewers.
It reveals the ultimate struggle for human autonomy within a career path that is entirely dictated by audience direction, algorithm metrics, and constant digital surveillance.
So what does this all mean? We've gone from learning macroeconomics through a diamond shop in Botswana to analyzing trauma responses on a crowded bus in the DR.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. This deep dive reveals something essential about our media landscape. Unscripted IRL streaming holds an undeniable, unprecedented power. It can absolutely bridge cultural divides, bypass algorithms of prejudice, and show the world the messy, beautiful truth of places they have never been.
Yes.
But it exacts a profound, almost devastating physiological tax on the human being standing at the center of the lens.
And for you listening to this, it is crucial to recognize that these global streams are ultimately a mirror for us, the audience.
Right.
When you react to a viral clip of an African city or a chaotic street in the DR, you are being given an opportunity to audit your own biases. Furthermore, when we learn to recognize these biological trauma responses, the fawning, the startle reflexes, the laryngeal tension, it makes us much more conscious consumers.
We have to.
We have to acknowledge the human cost of the digital media we constantly demand.
We really appreciate you joining us for this deep dive today. It's a heavy topic, but an essential one for understanding the modern internet. We want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. Think back to that perfectly safe, sanitized travel documentary we contrasted this with at the beginning.
The glossy brochure.
Exactly. If maintaining a massively popular, unfiltered IRL stream eventually forces a creator to rely on psychological masking, fawning, and trauma responses just to survive the broadcast, does authentic digital transparency have an inevitable expiration date?
That's a great question.
Will the sheer biological cost of living out loud eventually force this raw format to become just as curated, sanitized, and manufactured as the legacy media it replaced?